Hello everyone. Naruto Fix here, back with another amazing What If Naruto fanfic. Which is, what if Naruto became the center of every untold love story in Konoha? Part 1. If you enjoy Naruto stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the journey grow. Now let's head right into today's fanfic. Konoha had always spoken Naruto Uzumaki's name loudly. In cheers, in rumors, in shouts of praise after battles were won. But there were other voices too. Quieter ones. Voices that never reached him. After the war, after pain, after the world finally stopped trying to tear itself apart, Naruto found himself standing in the middle of the village one evening, watching people pass by as if seeing them for the first time. Children ran past him, laughing freely. Shinobi walked without urgency. Civilians smiled without fear. Peace had arrived. And yet, Naruto felt strangely unsettled. Not empty. Not lonely. Just unaware. He didn't notice the way heads turned when he passed. He didn't notice the way conversations softened around him. He didn't notice the looks that lingered a second too long. Naruto Uzumaki had become a symbol. But what he didn't realize was this. He had also become the quiet center of countless untold love stories. It started subtly. Sakura Haruno noticed it first. She stood outside the hospital late one afternoon, watching Naruto argue cheerfully with a group of genin about ramen. His laughter carried easily, unguarded, the same as always, but something about it felt different now. He wasn't trying to be seen. People were simply drawn to him. Sakura folded her arms, expression thoughtful. When had that changed? She remembered a time when Naruto chased affection desperately, loudly, almost painfully. When he demanded attention because he feared being forgotten. Now, he didn't chase anything. And somehow, that made him impossible to ignore. A young kunoichi passing by slowed unconsciously, pretending to adjust her gear while stealing a glance at him. Sakura caught it. Then another. Then another. Sakura frowned slightly. Since when? She murmured. Naruto finished his conversation and waved the genin off, stretching his arms above his head with a satisfied sigh. He turned, and caught Sakura watching him. Sakura-chan, he said brightly. You done for the day? She nodded. Yeah. He smiled. Want to grab food? The offer was casual, friendly, familiar. Sakura looked at him for a long moment. Once, hearing that question would have sent her heart racing for the wrong reasons. Now, she felt something else. Comfort. I can't today, she said gently. Maybe another time. Naruto shrugged easily. Sure. No disappointment. No awkwardness. No lingering tension. As he walked away, Sakura realized something unsettling. Naruto had changed. And because of that, everyone else was starting to see him differently. Across the village, Hinata Hyuga stood near a training field, watching Naruto from afar. She had done that many times before. But this time, her heart wasn't racing with fear. It was heavy with something quieter. She watched him help an elderly villager carry supplies, listened to the soft respect in the man's voice, saw the gratitude in his eyes. Naruto bowed awkwardly afterward, rubbing the back of his head, embarrassed by the praise. Hinata smiled faintly. He hadn't become distant after becoming a hero. He had become gentle. And that frightened her more than his strength ever had. Because loving someone strong was one thing. Loving someone kind, steady, and emotionally present was something else entirely. Hinata clenched her fists lightly. She wasn't the only one anymore. She could feel it. Temari of the Sand noticed it during her extended stay in Konoha. Naruto stood across the training field from Shikamaru, arguing lazily while the wind tugged at Temari's hair. She leaned against a fence, eyes narrowed thoughtfully. He's different, she said. Shikamaru sighed. You're the fifth person to say that this week. Temari raised an eyebrow. That's not a coincidence. Naruto laughed loudly at something Shikamaru muttered, then clapped him on the shoulder and walked off toward the village center. Temari watched him go. He doesn't act like someone who needs to be loved, she said slowly. And that's exactly why people fall for him. Shikamaru groaned. Troublesome. Temari smirked. Very. Even Ino Yamanaka felt it. She had always been confident, always aware of attention, but lately, she found her gaze drifting toward Naruto more often than she expected. Not because of his looks. Not because of his power. But because of how he listened. She watched him sit with a grieving villager, not speaking much, just being there. No speeches. No promises. Just presence. Ino swallowed. Love stories weren't always loud. Sometimes they lived in moments no one talked about. Naruto, completely unaware, walked through Konoha that night under a sky full of stars. He felt content, calm, grounded. For the first time in his life, he wasn't chasing dreams or approval. He was simply living. What he didn't know was that in doing so, he had become the quiet gravity pulling hearts toward him. Unspoken feelings, unfinished emotions, love stories that had never found words. And Naruto Uzumaki now stood unknowingly at the center of them all. Not as a conqueror, not as a hero, but as something far more dangerous. Someone worth loving. Naruto woke early the next morning, not because of training or missions, but because sunlight slipped through his window in a way that felt peaceful instead of demanding. He lay still for a moment, staring at the ceiling, listening to the distant sounds of the village beginning. It's day. For once, there was no pressure pushing him forward. No prophecy. No enemy. No desperate need to prove himself. He stretched and smiled faintly. Outside, Konoha was alive in a quieter way now. People greeted each other by name. Shopkeepers laughed. Shinobi walked without tension in their shoulders. Naruto stepped out into that calm, unaware that several pairs of eyes followed him the moment he did. Sakura watched him from the hospital steps. He waved to a group of children who ran past him, then stopped to help one of them fix a broken sandal strap. He listened carefully, nodding seriously, as if the problem mattered just as much as any mission ever had. Sakura felt something tighten in her chest. Not longing. Recognition. Once, she had been in love with Naruto's persistence. His refusal to give up. His loud, burning presence. Now, she found herself drawn to something else entirely. His stillness. She realized that Naruto no longer tried to fill silence. He respected it. And that, more than anything, made people feel safe around him. Sakura exhaled slowly. This is dangerous, she murmured to herself. Not for him. For everyone else. Hinata sensed it before she saw it. Naruto's chakra had always been warm to her, familiar like a heartbeat she had learned to recognize from afar. But now, when she felt it nearby, it no longer stirred fear in her chest. It stirred courage. She spotted him near the marketplace, speaking gently to a kunoichi who looked flustered but smiling. Naruto didn't flirt. He didn't tease. He simply listened. That was what hurt the most. Hinata lowered her gaze, fingers curling together. She had loved him in silence for so long that she thought she understood what pain was. But this was different. This was the fear of being one voice among many. And yet, she couldn't hate the way he treated people. That kindness was the reason she loved him. And the reason others would too. Ino leaned against a stall, arms folded, pretending to be uninterested while absolutely watching Naruto walk past. She scoffed softly. Unbelievable. Choji glanced up from his food. What is? Ino didn't answer. Because how could she explain it? Naruto Uzumaki, who once embarrassed himself daily for attention, now moved through the village without seeking any. And that confidence, earned, quiet, unforced, was magnetic. Ino had always valued beauty, charm, presence. Naruto had something deeper now. Substance. And it made her uncomfortable in the most honest way. Temari observed it all with a strategist's eye. She noticed how Naruto stood when he spoke to people, open, relaxed, never looming. How he never interrupted, never dismissed. How his laughter invited rather than demanded attention. He doesn't even realize it, she muttered. Shikamaru sighed beside her, realizing it would ruin it. Temari smirked. True. She crossed her arms. In the sand, strength attracts respect. In Konoha, kindness does. Quote. She paused. And Naruto has both. Naruto finally stopped near the river, sitting on the wooden edge and letting his feet dangle above the water. He watched the current move steadily forward, carrying fallen leaves without resistance. I used to fight everything, he thought. The current reminded him of himself now. Still moving, but no longer struggling. A soft voice broke his thoughts. Mind if I sit? Naruto looked up. Hinata stood there, hesitant but composed, hands clasped in front of her. He smiled. Not at all. She sat beside him, leaving a respectful space between them. The river flowed quietly, reflecting the sky. They didn't speak at first. And Naruto realized something strange. He didn't feel the need to. With Hinata, silence wasn't awkward. It was shared. After a while, Hinata spoke. Do you ever feel like people see you differently now? Naruto tilted his head. I guess. But I think they're just relieved the fighting's over. Hinata smiled softly. They see more than that, she said. Naruto frowned slightly. Like what? Hinata hesitated. She could have said everything. But she chose honesty without pressure. They see someone who stayed gentle even after the world tried to harden him. Naruto looked at the water again, thoughtful. I didn't want to lose that, he admitted. If I became cold, then everything we fought for would feel pointless. Hinata's heart ached quietly. That was it. That was why everyone felt drawn to him. Because Naruto had survived pain without letting it turn into bitterness. She looked at him, courage steadying her breath. Naruto-kun, do you ever feel lonely? He considered the question carefully. Not like before, he said. But sometimes, I feel like people expect something from me that I don't know how to give. Quote. Hinata nodded. Love can feel like that. Naruto blinked. She flushed slightly but didn't look away. Not because it's demanding, she continued. But because it's honest. Naruto felt his chest tighten. Before he could respond, footsteps approached. Sakura stopped a few feet away, taking in the scene without surprise. Ino's looking for you, she told Naruto lightly. Something about a mission briefing. Quote. Naruto nodded. I'll head over. He stood, glancing at Hinata. I'll see you later. Hinata smiled. Yes. As Naruto walked away, Sakura watched Hinata quietly. You know, Sakura said gently, he really doesn't see it. Quote. Hinata looked down. That might be why it matters. Sakura smiled faintly. Naruto Uzumaki walked through Konoha unaware that hearts were shifting, aligning, quietly rewriting themselves around him. He had become the center of untold love stories not by trying, but by finally becoming himself. And those stories were only just beginning. Naruto walked toward the Hokage Tower with his hands in his pockets, mind relaxed, thoughts drifting without urgency. He replayed Hinata's words in his head, not with confusion, but with a quiet curiosity. People seeing him differently no longer felt like a burden. It felt like a question he hadn't learned how to answer yet. Inside the tower, voices echoed through the hallways. Ino stood near the notice board, arms crossed, clearly waiting for him. When she spotted Naruto, she straightened slightly, then immediately scolded herself for it. Took you long enough, Ino said, flipping her hair back. Naruto grinned. Sorry. Got distracted. Ino studied him closely. He looked the same as always, and yet, not at all. Mission briefing, she said. Nothing dangerous. Escort and recon. Naruto nodded. Sounds good. She hesitated, then added casually, you've been busy lately. Naruto blinked. Have I? Ino scoffed lightly. You really don't notice, do you? Quote. Notice what? Ino shook her head. Never mind. But as they walked together, she found herself slowing her pace to match his, listening as he talked about trivial things, ramen, rebuilding, training schedules. Naruto never once tried to impress her. He never angled the conversation toward himself. And that was exactly what unsettled her. Once, Naruto had tried too hard. Now, he didn't try at all. And somehow, that felt far more intimate. Sakura watched them from a distance. She recognized the look on Ino's face immediately. Not infatuation, not obsession, but something quieter. Interest mixed with uncertainty. The kind that grew when someone mattered more than you expected. Sakura exhaled slowly. So this is how it spreads, she thought. Not drama, not competition, just moments. She didn't feel threatened. She felt aware. Naruto wasn't choosing anyone. He was simply being present. And presence invited attachment. Later that evening, Naruto found himself training lightly near the outskirts of the village. Not pushing himself, not chasing exhaustion, just moving, breathing, letting his body remember balance. Temari approached without announcing herself, arms folded, wind tugging at her hair. You train like someone who doesn't need to prove anything, she said. Naruto glanced over. Is that bad? Temari smirked. It's rare. She watched him move for a moment, then spoke again. In the sand, people follow strength. In Konoha, they follow heart. Naruto shrugged. I just do what feels right. Temari nodded slowly. That's exactly the problem. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Problem. You make people feel seen, she said. And that's dangerous. Naruto laughed softly. You make it sound like I'm planning something. Quote. You're not, Temari replied. That's why it works. She turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, she added, don't rush into anything. Untold stories lose their power when forced. Naruto watched her go, thoughtful. He didn't fully understand what she meant. But he felt the truth of it. That night, Hinata sat alone beneath the open sky, hands resting in her lap. She replayed the moment by the river again and again, not because of what Naruto had said, but because of what he hadn't. He hadn't deflected. He hadn't joked. He hadn't run. He had listened. For years, Hinata had believed her love was something fragile, something that existed only in silence. Now, she wondered if silence itself could be strong. I don't need to be chosen loudly, she thought. I just need to be understood. Naruto lay on his bed later, staring at the ceiling, a strange sense of awareness settling in his chest. Not guilt, not pressure, responsibility, not the kind tied to power or leadership, but the kind that came from knowing your actions mattered more than you intended. He thought of Sakura's steady presence, Ino's curiosity, Temari's sharp insight, Hinata's quiet courage. Love wasn't circling him like a storm. It was orbiting him like gravity. Subtle, unspoken, patient. Naruto exhaled slowly. I don't want to hurt anyone, he whispered to the darkness. And perhaps that was the quiet tragedy of it all. Because being kind without choosing was its own kind of choice. Outside, Konoha slept peacefully, unaware that its untold love stories were slowly aligning around one boy who had finally learned how to live. And at the center of it all stood Naruto Uzumaki. Not as a hero, not as a savior, but as someone worth loving. The days that followed passed gently, almost deceptively calm. Naruto moved through the village with the same easy warmth he always had, but something in the air had shifted. Conversations lingered longer when he was nearby. People listened more closely when he spoke. Even silence seemed to settle more comfortably around him. And still, he noticed none of it. He helped rebuild walls. He trained the younger shinobi. He shared meals, laughter, small moments that felt ordinary but somehow carried weight. What Naruto felt was not attention. It was connection. Sakura became more aware of it with each passing day. She watched Naruto during team meetings, noticed how people naturally oriented themselves toward him without thinking. He didn't dominate conversations. He didn't lead by force. He made space. And in that space, people felt safe enough to be honest. Sakura realized something unsettling. Naruto wasn't just the center of affection. He was becoming the place people brought their unspoken feelings. She found herself sitting beside him one afternoon after training, legs stretched out, breathing slow. You ever feel like everyone expects something from you? She asked quietly. Naruto thought for a moment. Not exactly. More like, they trust me with things they don't say out loud. Sakura smiled faintly. That's heavier than expectations. Naruto shrugged. I don't mind. She studied his face. That's what scares me, she said softly. Naruto looked at her then, really looked at her. You don't sound scared, he said. Sakura exhaled. No, just aware. They sat in silence after that, not awkward, not strained. Sakura felt no pull to be closer, no ache to be chosen. Only gratitude. Because Naruto's presence no longer demanded anything from her. And that was healing. Ino felt it differently. For her, awareness came like irritation at first. She caught herself looking for Naruto in crowds. Listening for his voice. Wondering, briefly and against her will, what he would say if she told him things she usually kept hidden. It annoyed her. Ino prided herself on confidence, on knowing what she wanted. But Naruto didn't fit neatly into desire. He didn't challenge her ego. He disarmed it. One evening, she stopped him outside the flower shop. Do you ever flirt? She asked bluntly. Naruto blinked. I don't think so. Ino rolled her eyes. Figures. She expected embarrassment. Or denial. Instead, Naruto smiled gently. I don't want to say things I don't mean, he said. Feels unfair. Ino froze for half a second. Then she laughed. That's really annoying, she said. But she walked away smiling. Because for the first time, someone hadn't tried to win her. They had simply respected her. Temari observed all of this like a tactician watching a slow burn campaign. Naruto didn't conquer hearts. He allowed them to move closer on their own. And that made him unpredictable. You're a problem, she told him one afternoon, leaning against a fence as he trained. Naruto wiped sweat from his brow. I hear that a lot. Temari smirked. You don't create drama. You create tension. The unresolved kind. Naruto frowned slightly. I don't want that. I know, Temari said. That's why it works. She studied him carefully. In my village, she continued, people fall for power or certainty. Here, they fall for emotional safety. Naruto was quiet. Be careful, Temari added. Hearts don't like staying unspoken forever. Naruto nodded slowly. He felt it too. And Hinata. Hinata felt it deepest. Not as jealousy. Not as fear. But as patience. She noticed the glances Naruto received. The way conversations softened around him. The way people leaned in, trusted him, opened up. And instead of pulling away, she stood steadier. Because she knew something the others didn't. She knew Naruto when he was lonely. When he was desperate. When he was afraid of being unwanted. And she loved him not because he was gentle now. But because he had chosen gentleness after pain. One evening, she walked beside him quietly as they passed the training fields. Naruto-kun, she said softly. Yeah, you don't owe anyone anything, she said. Just because they care, doesn't mean you have to choose. Naruto looked at her, surprised. You're not worried? He asked. Hinata shook her head. Love isn't a race, she said. And I don't want to be chosen out of pressure. Naruto felt something warm settle in his chest. You're strong, he said. Hinata smiled. So are you. Quote. They continued walking. No promises. No claims. No urgency. Just trust. That night, Naruto sat alone on a rooftop, watching the village lights glow below him. He felt the pull of many quiet stories, many unspoken emotions orbiting him like distant stars. He understood something now. Being loved wasn't about being chosen. It was about being seen. And someday, he would have to choose too. But not yet. For now, he would remain still at the center. Not to gather hearts, not to claim them. But to honor them. Because untold love stories deserved care. And Naruto Uzumaki, for the first time in his life, knew how to give it. Naruto began to notice it at last, not as attention, not as admiration, but as weight. Not the crushing weight of expectation he had carried as a child. Not the suffocating pressure of prophecy or destiny. This was quieter. He noticed how conversations changed when he entered a room. How people chose their words more carefully, as if afraid of disturbing something fragile. He noticed how often people stayed a moment longer than necessary when speaking to him, how silence stretched without discomfort instead of breaking apart. It wasn't desire that surrounded him. It was trust. And trust, Naruto was learning, carried its own responsibility. One afternoon, he found himself sitting beside Shikamaru beneath a tree near the Nara forest. Clouds drifted slowly overhead, and the world felt unhurried. You've got a weird aura lately, Shikamaru said lazily. Naruto snorted. That's a new one. Shikamaru glanced at him sidelong. You don't chase things anymore. Naruto frowned slightly. Is that bad? Quote. No. Shikamaru replied. Just dangerous. Naruto waited. When someone stops chasing, Shikamaru continued, others start orbiting. Naruto sighed. I don't want to mess things up. Shikamaru closed his eyes. You already are. Just not in a bad way. Naruto leaned back against the tree trunk, staring at the sky. I don't want anyone to get hurt because of me, he said quietly. Shikamaru opened one eye. That's unavoidable. Quote. Naruto stiffened. Feelings exist whether you acknowledge them or not, Shikamaru added. Ignoring them doesn't protect people. It just delays the truth. Naruto absorbed that in silence. Sakura came to understand the truth in her own way. She found Naruto one evening helping clean up after a community meal. He laughed with the villagers, accepted thanks awkwardly, and worked without complaint. She joined him, handing over plates. You're exhausting, she said lightly. Naruto grinned. I'm helping. I know, she replied. That's the problem. He glanced at her, curious. You make people feel like they matter, Sakura said. Even when you don't mean to. Naruto hesitated. Is that wrong? Sakura shook her head slowly. No, but it means people start imagining futures with you in them. Naruto's chest tightened. Sakura met his eyes, honest and calm. I don't want one of those futures. But I know others do. Naruto swallowed. Thank you for telling me. She smiled softly. That's what friends do. And she meant it. Ino came closest to saying something, and stopped herself. She stood beside Naruto during a late patrol, city lights reflecting in her eyes. You ever think about settling down? She asked suddenly. Naruto blinked. Someday. She nodded. Figures. There was no bitterness in her tone. Only curiosity. You'd be good at it, she added. Because you don't try to own people. Naruto didn't respond immediately. I don't want to lose myself, he said finally. Or anyone else. Ino smiled faintly. That's why people fall. She didn't say for you. She didn't need to. Temari understood the pattern forming before Naruto did. She watched him from a distance during her final days in Konoha, arms crossed, expression unreadable. He's becoming a constant, she said quietly to Kankuro. Not excitement. Not chaos. Stability. Kankuro muttered. Temari nodded. And that's dangerous. Kankuro glanced at her. You sound disappointed. Quote. She shook her head. No. I sound impressed. Naruto didn't pull people toward him. He anchored them. And then there was Hinata. Hinata never tried to compete with the unspoken stories forming around him. She didn't compare herself. She didn't rush. She didn't retreat. She stayed. One evening, she walked with him in silence, steps aligned, breath steady. Naruto-kun, she said gently, you don't have to solve this. Quote. Naruto looked at her. Solve what? Being cared for, she said. You don't have to manage other people's feelings. Naruto stopped walking. I'm afraid, he admitted, of choosing wrong. of hurting someone who trusted me. Quote. Hinata met his gaze, unflinching. Then don't choose out of fear, she said. Choose out of truth. He searched her face. And if the truth hurts? Hinata smiled softly. Then it hurts honestly. They resumed walking. Naruto felt steadier beside her than anywhere else. Not because she demanded certainty, but because she accepted uncertainty without leaving. That night, Naruto stood on the Hokage monument. Village lights spread beneath him like a living constellation. He felt every untold story like a quiet pulse, unspoken hopes, gentle possibilities, restrained longing. For the first time, he understood. Love wasn't gathering around him because he was strong. It was gathering because he had learned how to remain open without asking for anything in return. And someday, soon, silence would no longer be enough. Untold stories always sought their voice. And part 1 was drawing closer to the moment where one truth would finally step forward. Not loudly, but clearly. Naruto began to understand that silence could only last so long. The village still moved gently around him, but the quiet orbit of emotions had grown heavier, more deliberate. He felt it in the way people paused before speaking to him, as if weighing words that never left their mouths. He felt it in the way eyes followed him not with expectation, but with hope carefully restrained. Hope was dangerous, not because it was fragile, but because it wanted to be answered. Naruto walked alone that evening, hands tucked into his jacket, the sky above Konoha washed in deep violet. He passed familiar streets, familiar faces, each greeting warm yet careful, as though everyone sensed that something unspoken was nearing its moment. He stopped near the memorial stone. Names etched into stone caught the fading light, reminders of lives cut short, stories never finished. Naruto stared at them for a long time. So many feelings never got a chance, he murmured. And suddenly, he felt foolish for believing untold stories could remain untold forever. Sakura stood nearby, watching him from a distance. She had learned to read Naruto's stillness. When he stopped moving like this, when his shoulders lowered and his gaze softened, it meant he was thinking about things he didn't know how to voice. She approached quietly. You look like you're carrying something heavy, she said. Naruto didn't turn right away. I don't want to make mistakes, he replied. Sakura stepped beside him, hands folded loosely. You already will. Quote. Naruto looked at her then, surprised. Sakura smiled faintly. That's not a criticism. It's human. She leaned against the stone railing. Love isn't something you navigate perfectly, she continued. You just decide who you're willing to be honest with. Naruto absorbed that slowly. I used to think love meant fighting harder, he said. Or proving myself. Sakura shook her head. Love is choosing where you rest. Quote. Her words lingered between them. For a moment, Naruto imagined a future where Sakura had once been that place. He felt no regret, only gratitude for what had been and clarity for what wasn't. I'm glad we're like this, Naruto said. So am I, Sakura replied without hesitation. They stood in comfortable silence until Sakura finally stepped away, leaving Naruto alone with his thoughts. Ino came close to speaking that night, and chose restraint instead. She crossed paths with Naruto near the Yamanaka flower shop, hands full of supplies. He offered to help without being asked, carrying boxes carefully as if they were something precious. You don't have to do everything, Ino said. Naruto smiled. I want to. She studied him, then sighed softly. That's the problem, she said. You want to. And that makes people want things from you. Naruto paused. Is that wrong? Ino shook her head. No. It's just dangerous for people who aren't ready to hear no. Naruto handed her the boxes gently. I don't want to hurt anyone. Ino met his gaze, eyes clear. Then when you choose, she said, choose clearly. Quote. She didn't wait for an answer. Because she already knew she wasn't the one he would choose. And oddly, that knowledge felt like relief. Temari prepared to leave Konoha the next morning. She found Naruto near the gates at dawn, standing with his hands in his pockets, watching the horizon. You're standing at the calm before something changes, she said. Naruto smiled faintly. Everyone keeps telling me that. Temari crossed her arms. Because it's true. You've become a focal point. And focal points eventually require resolution. Quote. Naruto exhaled slowly. I wish I could keep things gentle. You can, Temari replied. But not indefinite. She studied him carefully. When you choose, she said, don't choose the loudest story. Choose the one that already knows how to stay. Naruto watched her leave, the words echoing deeper than he expected. And then there was Hinata. Hinata didn't seek Naruto that day. She trained. She breathed. She centered herself. She had spent years loving from a distance. She refused to approach this moment with desperation. When she finally encountered Naruto that evening, it was by chance, near the same riverbank where so much had already been shared. They stood side by side again, the water reflecting the moon. Naruto spoke first. I'm afraid of the moment when silence isn't enough anymore, he admitted. Hinata nodded. I am too. He turned to her. Why aren't you running? Hinata looked at him steadily. Because love that runs isn't love, she said. And love that waits doesn't mean it's weak. Naruto felt his chest tighten. I don't know what the future looks like, he said. Hinata smiled softly. Neither do I. But I know how I feel now. He didn't ask her to explain. He didn't need to. Because Hinata had never tried to pull him toward her. She had always walked beside him. And in that moment, Naruto understood something with painful clarity. Untold love stories didn't orbit him because he was kind. They orbited him because he listened. And one story, quiet, patient, unwavering, had never needed words to stay. The silence between them deepened. But this time, it was no longer avoidance. It was anticipation. Part 1 was nearing its threshold. And soon, one untold love story would no longer remain untold. Not because it demanded to be chosen, but because it had already chosen him. The river flowed steadily beside them, carrying reflections of the moon like fragments of quiet thoughts drifting away. Naruto stood with his hands resting loosely at his sides, feeling the weight of the moment press gently against his chest. This silence was different from all the others before it. It wasn't empty. It wasn't safe. It was full. Hinata did not look away. She never had when it mattered most. The night air brushed against her hair, but she stood grounded, her posture calm, her presence unwavering. She had learned long ago that courage did not always announce itself. Sometimes, it simply stayed. Naruto broke the silence first, his voice low. Everyone keeps telling me that something has to change, he said. That I can't keep standing in the middle forever. Hinata nodded slowly. They're not wrong. He let out a quiet breath. But choosing feels like betraying all the things that were never said. Hinata turned to face him fully now. Untold feelings aren't promises, she said gently. They're possibilities. And possibilities don't disappear just because you choose something real. Naruto clenched his jaw slightly, absorbing her words. I don't want to hurt anyone, he repeated, softer this time. Hinata's expression softened. Naruto-kun, hurting someone unintentionally is different from leading them on by staying silent forever. The truth in her words landed with precision. Naruto stared at the water again, memories surfacing uninvited. Sakura's honesty, Ino's restraint, Temari's clarity, and Hinata's patience. Each feeling was real. Each deserved respect. But only one had never asked him to be anything other than himself. That's what scares me, Naruto admitted. That I already know. Hinata's breath caught. Just barely, but she did not move. Knowing doesn't mean rushing, she said. It just means listening. Naruto turned toward her slowly. And what if listening leads me to you? Hinata did not answer immediately. Instead, she took a step closer, not invading his space, not demanding closeness. Just enough to let him feel her presence clearly. Then I would want it to be because you chose me, she said quietly. Not because I waited the longest. Not because I stayed the quietest. Naruto's heart thudded painfully in his chest. I don't want to be chosen out of convenience, she continued. I want to be chosen because it feels true. Naruto swallowed. That's the thing, he said. It does. The words hung between them, fragile and irreversible. Hinata did not smile. She did not cry. She simply closed her eyes for a brief moment, steadying herself. Then say it when you're ready, she replied. Not because the silence is heavy, but because your heart is clear. She stepped back, giving him space again. And that, more than any confession, told Naruto everything he needed to know. Elsewhere in the village, Sakura stood on her balcony, gazing at the same moon. She sensed the shift without seeing it. Some bonds didn't require proximity to be felt. She smiled softly. He's going to choose, she thought. And for the first time, that thought didn't hurt. It felt right. Ino closed the shop for the night, arranging flowers with deliberate care. She paused, hands resting on the counter, then exhaled slowly. So that's how it ends, she murmured. Not with heartbreak, but with understanding. Temari, already miles from Konoha, watched the horizon as dawn began to form. She smiled faintly. He'll choose the one who never tried to pull him, she said to the wind. Back by the river, Naruto stood alone for a moment after Hinata left, the echo of her words settling deep within him. He understood now. Love was not something gathered. It was something answered. And while many stories had found their way toward him, only one had always walked beside him without asking to be noticed. Naruto looked up at the sky, a quiet resolve forming. The silence was almost over. And when it broke, it would not break hearts. It would clarify them. The night felt longer after Hinata left. Naruto remained by the river, unmoving, listening to the water flow past stones worn smooth by time. He felt strangely awake, as if something inside him had finally aligned. The weight he had been carrying was still there, but it was no longer confusing. It was clear. For the first time, Naruto understood that avoiding choice was also a choice. And it was the one thing he could no longer do. He didn't chase after Hinata. Not because he didn't want to, but because she had asked for honesty, not urgency. Naruto turned away from the river and walked through the village slowly, letting the night settle his thoughts. Each familiar street felt different now, not because the village had changed, but because he had. He passed the ramen stand, closed for the night. He passed the training grounds where he had once pushed himself until exhaustion just to feel worthy. He passed rooftops where he had stood alone, wondering if anyone would ever truly stay. Someone already had. He just hadn't known how to see it before. The next morning arrived quietly. Naruto woke before dawn, not restless, not anxious, focused. He dressed simply, moving with purpose rather than excitement. There was no dramatic rush in his heart, no overwhelming surge of emotion. Only certainty. He trained briefly, grounding himself, letting his body settle into rhythm. Then he headed toward the Hyuga district. Not to declare anything, not to make promises. Just to speak honestly. But fate, it seemed, wanted patience. Hinata wasn't there. She was already training. Naruto stopped at the edge of the Hyuga grounds, watching from a respectful distance. Hinata moved through her forms with calm precision, her breathing steady, her focus unbroken. There was no hesitation in her movements now. No self-doubt clouding her posture. She had grown. And she hadn't needed him to do it. Naruto felt something warm and humbling settle in his chest. When Hinata finally noticed him, she paused, not startled, not flustered. She simply acknowledged his presence with a small nod and finished her sequence before approaching. Good morning, Naruto-kun, she said. Morning, he replied. They stood there for a moment, neither rushing to speak. I wasn't looking for you, Naruto said honestly. I just wanted to see you. Hinata smiled faintly. I'm glad. Naruto took a slow breath. I thought about what you said, he continued. About choosing because it's true. Quote, Hinata listened, attentive but calm. I've had a lot of people care about me, Naruto said. And I don't take that lightly. But there's only one person who's never asked me to be anything other than myself. Quote, Hinata's breath slowed, but she didn't interrupt. You stayed when I was loud, Naruto said. When I was reckless. When I was broken. And when I finally learned how to be quiet. He met her eyes. That matters to me. Hinata's fingers curled slightly at her sides. Not from fear, but from emotion carefully contained. Naruto didn't step closer. He didn't reach out. I'm not asking for answers today, he said. I just want you to know, I'm not standing in the middle anymore. Hinata closed her eyes briefly, steadying herself. Thank you, she said softly. For saying it when you meant it. Naruto nodded. They stood together under the morning sky, not as a confession fulfilled, but as a truth acknowledged. And that was enough. Elsewhere in the village, Sakura felt the shift without seeing it. She smiled quietly as she went about her day, lighter than she had been in years. Ino noticed it too, and instead of pain, she felt clarity. Temari, far away, would have laughed if she'd known. Untold love stories did not disappear when one truth stepped forward. They transformed. Some became gratitude. Some became understanding. Some became quiet closure. Naruto Uzumaki had not conquered hearts. He had honored them. And in doing so, he had finally begun to choose his own. The center of every untold love story had found his voice. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But honestly. The days that followed were quiet in a way Naruto had never known before. Not empty. Not uncertain. Quiet with purpose. He no longer felt pulled in every direction by unspoken expectations. Instead, there was a steady calm in his chest, as if something that had been drifting for a long time had finally found its place. He didn't avoid people. He didn't change how he treated anyone. But something subtle had shifted. Naruto was no longer standing in the middle of everyone's feelings. He was standing in his own. Sakura noticed it immediately. Naruto still laughed, still joked, still helped without being asked, but there was a new steadiness in him. He listened differently now. He spoke with intention. When conversations ended, they felt complete rather than lingering. She watched him from the hospital courtyard one afternoon, speaking gently to a young shinobi who looked overwhelmed. Naruto didn't offer advice. He offered presence. When the shinobi left, visibly calmer, Sakura approached. You seem lighter, she said. Naruto smiled. I feel clearer. She nodded. That suits you. Quote. There was no sadness in her eyes. No regret. Only quiet understanding. I think, Sakura said after a pause, some people come into our lives to teach us what love isn't, so we can recognize what it is. Quote. Naruto looked at her, grateful. I'm glad we found our way here, he said. So am I, Sakura replied. And for the first time, the past felt resolved. Ino experienced the change as closure she hadn't known she needed. Naruto still greeted her with warmth. Still listened when she talked. Still treated her with easy respect. But the tension was gone. The uncertainty had settled into clarity. One evening, she caught herself smiling at him without expectation, and realized that was enough. Figures, she muttered to herself. Leave it to him to make even letting go feel gentle. Temari would have called it inevitable. From a distance, she would have seen it clearly. Naruto didn't choose loudly. He didn't announce anything. He simply aligned himself with the truth he had always been circling. In the sand, that kind of choice was rare. In Konoha, it was powerful. And Hinata felt it not as a dramatic change, but as relief. Naruto didn't hover. He didn't rush. He didn't press her with expectations. Instead, he walked beside her the same way he always had. Only now, there was no uncertainty in his presence. One evening, they walked together beneath the lanterns, steps in rhythm, shoulders relaxed. You seem at peace, Hinata said softly. Naruto nodded. I am. She smiled, not shy, not nervous. Just present. I'm glad, she said. You deserve that. Naruto stopped walking. Hinata stopped too. He turned toward her, not urgent, not overwhelmed. Hinata, he said quietly, thank you for never asking me to choose you before I was ready. Her breath caught, but her voice remained steady. I didn't want to be a question, she replied. I wanted to be an answer you arrived at on your own. Naruto felt the truth of that settle deeply inside him. You were, he said. You are. Hinata lowered her gaze, emotion warm but controlled. They didn't touch. They didn't need to. The understanding between them was complete. That night, Naruto stood once more on the Hokage monument, village lights glowing below him like a living constellation. He felt no pull now, no orbit of unresolved feelings. Only direction. Untold love stories had surrounded him because he had been open. They had softened him, strengthened him, taught him care. But one story had never demanded to be told. It had simply stayed. And Naruto Uzumaki finally understood that love did not need to compete. It only needed to endure. Konoha settled into the quiet rhythm of recovery, and for the first time in a long while, Naruto Uzumaki felt no need to run ahead of it. The village moved forward on its own, steady and sure, just as he had learned to do. He walked through familiar streets no longer weighed down by unspoken expectations. The looks he received were still warm, still filled with quiet affection and respect, but they no longer pulled at him. The stories that had once orbited him had found their answers, not through rejection, but through honesty. Naruto had not broken hearts. He had honored them. Sakura found peace in clarity, her past no longer holding her in place. Ino learned that letting go did not mean losing something valuable, only releasing what was never meant to be held. Temari returned to the sand with understanding rather than curiosity, knowing she had witnessed something rare, strength without dominance, love without conquest. And Hinata. Hinata walked beside Naruto beneath the lantern-lit sky, not as a quiet admirer, not as a voice waiting to be heard, but as someone who had always known how to stay. Naruto stopped near the edge of the village, the night calm around them. I don't need the world to know, he said softly. I just need to be honest. Hinata met his gaze, her expression peaceful, unwavering. That's all I ever wanted, she replied. There were no grand confessions. No dramatic declarations. Just truth, spoken gently and received without fear. Naruto Uzumaki had once chased love desperately, believing it was something to be earned through noise and effort. But now he understood what he had missed all along. Love did not gather around him because he was strong. It gathered because he had learned how to listen. And in the end, the untold love stories did not fade away. They transformed into understanding, into gratitude, into quiet closure. What remained was not the center of every story, but the beginning of one that was finally his. Thank you.